time. And then, so we can keep everything up there so that people, you know, can have access to that.
What's on your starts the website?
It's Town of Lake Luzerne. So the homepage has a band, it's just changed it in recent, and it looks a little different from the phone app. So you go to the top and it has a number of different things, it says town plan.
I didn't look at it, so-
Yeah, I'm very pleased with that.
Why don't you say there's- that we're looking for the town plan.
Yeah, that on the app, it may be scroll down. I think there's a place.
Yeah, public town comprehensive plan.
Yes,
But there was somewhere in here we talked about.
it did. It did. And we're gonna have to change that. Yeah. Now Cindy wrote me that today. We're gonna have elections in this room, so. You know, I would propose September 1st. It's the 5th week of August and nothing ever happens on the 5th week of any month, right? And it's before Labor Day, so people should still be around. And it is a Thursday the 1st. And I just cleared it with Jean. He said there's nothing going on that week.
It's 7 o'clock.
At 7 o'clock, yeah. Yeah, right here. Okay. Okay. I mean, the whole idea was to get it in before people disappear.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, so we were going to talk tonight about well, first you have to clear this. Oh, let's go around the room. I'm sorry, Drew.
I didn't.
I-
I'm Drew Alberti.
I don't think.
Joe Survey.
And Tracy Clothier. And who is on Zoom?
Fred Yuri.
Here. Okay. And our guests?
Yeah, I'm the plan, I guess, my wife, we're like in our residence.
Great.
They're good and talk about it.
Yes. And I'm glad you said it that way. I've always pronounced it Lake Benair.
Yeah.
But is it really Lake Benair?
That's what everybody said.
Well, I stand corrected.
It is not.
Okay, all right. So I'll be all right.
Yeah.
All right, that's good. Yeah, so our focus tonight is on Lake Benair. And I just wanted to tell you that I did speak with Max Urenda at Double H the other day, and we're gonna meet on Friday. He's gonna let me use my kayak from his beach, and I'm gonna go out and he's gonna show me some things and talk about it. But he generally has a really positive view of the hamlet itself and how it works. Traffic is okay, signage. The only thing he mentioned was sight distance for cars going down the road. What is that road called? Please remind me. Yes, Hidden Valley Road, yeah. That, you know, a lot of the branches are sticking out and people avoid it and there's people walking, all that. But anyway, I'm gonna have a meeting with him and I think that'll be great. I just asked him about, are there flooding problems? What do you see? And mostly he is concerned about the vegetation where the kids love to fish. And that they'd like to get some better control of that. And Jean was just telling me that they cut that a few years ago and it's just come back like you know, like getting anything
Weeds.
comes back. Weeds come back even faster once you cut them, the grass and whatnot. So anyway, I just wanted to tell you that. And I talked also to the APA today about land use and any changes in that area and what their viewpoint is. I tried to get Tom Reed, but he didn't call me back. So, you know, I want to hear from him and where he stands with his application for changing the density in that section. So talking about Lake Benar and, Fourth Lake. I mean, that's generally where we're talking about. We can go over to the river and up and around, but I'll get you going by just telling you that I reviewed the comp plan from 2010 and also the first wilderness heritage, the documents. There was a plan update, and then there was a marketing plan. And basically, just to give you an overview of what my finding was, is that they pointed to allowing growth in the hamlet areas, residential and commercial, and to keep there from being strip mall type commercial growth along Route 9, have it in nodes, as it was said. And I think that's what happens anyway, so that's good. They suggested better signage that would give the different areas more identity. Right now, it does say, as I drove through it tonight, it's Lake Benar, and Fourth Lake. They're just, Adirondack signs, which I don't have a problem with that. I don't know that you absolutely have to change that, but we can. Hamlet beautification. There's a lot of people biking between Lake George and Luzerne. You consider that to be an exceptional bike ride. And there's really no, it's not declared a bike route. There's no signage for that. There's no stamping of the road or announcing, watch out for bicycles. So that might be something to think about. Amenities for bikes, nobody even thinks about them. There's no bike racks. I think Adirondack Folk School might have one. We have one. Yeah, when we did our walkabout, I think we noted that there was one in the park and maybe one there. The businesses don't have them. These people are driving pretty expensive bikes, so I think they want to be able to lock them up. Incorporate conservation or cluster provisions for land uses in the outside the hamlet areas. And it does say review and modify Route 9 zoning regulations. It never identifies exactly what that means. So we don't really have a lot of guidance for Tom Reed's suggestion that the town get appeal to the APA to change their zoning to meet the towns. And I'm sure all of you know about that. Is that true? Is everybody? Okay, all right. Well, we'll
The towns is different than the APA wants to change the town, which is better for.
yes.
He's already pulled back. He
Yes.
decided not to position the town anymore.
Mhm.
I heard he's getting his own lawyer, but the APA refused it for several reasons.
Mhm.
Well, 4 reasons. And one of them was the overwhelming opposition. People that live around it. On the southern, made by the homes. Here in Kansas, they have a subdivision, 100 acre, 30, 40, lot subdivision. Right now it's only 8.5
Mhm.
acres, and that would be fine. 1,8.5 acres to keep that area the way it's intended to be. An ideal too.
And under those
If
six,
you look on this website, he's talking about gated community, 2 acre lots, $150,000. It's not something that you kind of do. It's looking, well, to get things to come up.
Mhm. Mhm.
And that's why one reason there's 3 other reasons.
I think that was the biggest.
Big one was opposition. And I think the other one was, there's nothing in the comprehensive plan that drives that decision. So they really are looking, the APA is looking to this group to help give some guidance should that application come back. Right now, they don't have anything in front of them.
I talked with APA about that.
Yeah.
They said that it's up to the town to provide a definite need for the change of zoning.
Mhm.
not just, well, we think it's a good idea, but we can get the revenue back. Because that's the reason, otherwise we can put apart. There is definitely need, and he can prove that definitely, he also, it was spot zoning. And there was nothing that in this proposal that was very open space protection.
Mhm. So the lots weren't clustered.
Yeah, there was, one of them was that, it was the spot zoning. So, boy, we don't know what the lots are gonna be, it changes a lot all the time, and once you get APA to say, okay, you can go in every 2 acres, you can do whatever you want, you can buy your road. With lots that are 50 feet wide and 200 feet.
Well, wouldn't it be under the town
Would be the town-
planning
would
board and
town
we'd have
say.
site plan review?
Comes to the planning board, and necessarily do whatever.
Right, but- And but whatever our rules, 100 feet of road frontage, I don't know.
Yes, but if it's a 2 acre thing, I mean, it's gonna be up to the planning board. It's not a planning.
Good.
And that other developments come in front of us. And we have, depending on public hearing, if people want to come and say, people live there, hey, this is what we have. And I say, oh, well, take that into consideration, that makes sense. We want to keep it. Okay. We have the right to say this is what you have to do it this way.
Okay, that's something that's written, this is the law.
Not necessarily, he has to come from the planning board. He wants to promote it. Have fire access. But if they change the rule there, it's gonna be 100 feet. And that's something. You're saying 2 acre lots. 2 acre lots. 100 feet isn't too much.
So who's the 100 feet?
What he's saying, like.
That's that 100 feet, I came up with that number, that's not,
That's hypothetical.
that's hypothetical.
Okay.
I'd rather. It's lots that we can for us.
Mhm.
What's it?
Mhm. Okay.
On a much smaller issue, I mean, this is a much bigger issue than the N. There's a strip along 9A in the Fort Lake area that has had residences as long as I remember. And so the master plan zoning first went. In the last master plan came before going to come before the town, people were shocked to see that some of them are in commercial zone, because it's never been commercial. So they asked the master plan committee to change it in the zoning, and they did, and somehow that version of it did not get presented to the town. So those homes that have been homes for at least 70 years, when we get to zoning, I think those people would probably, at least some of them would like that area changed to residential, which is what is.
Are there any commercial businesses there right now? 'Cause I don't
No.
think you can make that.
It goes up to, Dane,
Right.
but the people I know who are interested in it don't go quite that far. They go up to,
I mean, it's all residential now.
right. And Dane's area was commercial because it was, the bar.
So maybe you could mark this zoning map.
Are you talking just before the ones?
Yeah. And I don't know how some of those people feel who are right near Dane Morton's place, but I know how the people feel who are up to Mountain View, both sides of Mountain View. And from there on, I don't know.
Worth. We gotta go up one. So.
Okay. You should mark my house.
Or
This part here, that's town commercial, at least some of those people that want to, some of them are even considering putting in their deeds that it has to be, residential.
Do the other people even know that it's?
I don't know.
Commercial?
I don't know. Because it hit some of the Fort Lakers as a shock when they saw it.
I think some, when they came to the games here, there's a lot of people.
Yeah, but,
They realized it was commercial.
yeah, but not even before that, thing, the Danes area was commercial.
Right.
So I don't see that as an issue.
give me a marker. I mean, tell me give me a landmark.
Up to, at least up to both sides of Mountain View Road.
Oh.
Whether from the past those houses, there are a few more houses till we get to Danes, and I don't know how those people feel. They might be happy with this commercial, they might not know.
But you're just saying that this was decided, but for some reason it never made it.
Right,
into the-
exactly.
Okay, gotcha. Sure, okay.
And that's maybe more when we actually talk about the actual zone.
Yes, yes, we can do that. So, basically basically the old plan, was not very distinct. I found nothing about that in there, and there wasn't, do this, do that for the zoning and land use. There just really wasn't. It was, I always like to say, a lot of do good and avoid evil. That's just the way it happens, and that's fine, but, so anyway. There's a lot about, the first wilderness and participation in the first wilderness and, marketing the town as a, quiet, quaint, beautiful place to live, and all of that, so, I didn't find a ton of direction about that. Right, in fact, the comprehensive plan doesn't really go above, Lake Luzerne. Didn't really cover that. So, why don't we just go right through this and talk about, and you can talk about generalities, I just wrote this up as best I could. Infrastructure, I'm talking about, is there a problem with sanitary, individual septic? Do we need to address that in the plan by saying, we need to address that, right, as an issue? It needs to be addressed by the community. Is water, potable water, a problem? Dams, I know the Forest Lake Dam has some issue, right?
Fourth Lake Dam,
Is it the Forest Lake Dam or is it Forest Lake?
Fourth Lake's down and Fourth Lake Eagles.
Okay, so, yeah, there's something you can do about that then. Stormwater management. Stormwater is a big thing, and there's a lot of grant money out there for stormwater. Resilience, flood resilience. Okay, so there's a ton of money out there that addresses things like dams. Unfortunately, the one that has some problems is privately owned, which puts them not in the grant category. It has to be public property, but there's a lot of money for flood resiliency out there and solving problems where flooding occurs. So you can tell me about that. And let me just finish and then let's turn it over to you. Cell service. Okay, cell service, an issue that we want to bring up in here. And pedestrian safety, crosswalks. Do you need crosswalk across Route 9N? It would take an act of Congress for that to happen, but nonetheless, we would put that in here. It would never happen if you don't put it in the plan. So tell me about what you think related to infrastructure and those items is the condition of Fourth Lake and Lake Menard, that area. What should we be concerned about?
Well, this is as far as she said sanitary, septic system.
Yes,
I don't know what the law is. I mean, when we were dealing with the planning board, presented to the town board, short-term rentals, they had to be inspected, which was good. But to just tell everybody, that apply, that apply, period. Cell service, I was involved in the Verizon Tower down that way. There was a lot of obstacles with that.
Little zones.
Yeah, well, they didn't want it. They said, a lot of health reasons at the time, but now we still can't consider it health reasons, but there was opposition to putting cell towers. They said they had enough coverage, which maybe, I don't know. With that cell tower there now, I'm hoping that it's going to solve the problem, because we don't have to deal with that. I understand how people feel I have a cell tower in their house, but the way it was presented to us, the plan, but we didn't have The big thing is the house pieces. We cannot. Very jealous of this stuff.
Mhm.
He was making certain conditions where they were going to put it.
Okay, and it's up, it's built operational?
It's in the process. I don't know if it's finished.
Have they started it?
Yeah, they have started.
What is it gonna be?
I want to go see it too.
It's about half a mile up.
Yeah, I'll go. I had to go to it's in the woods, trust me. I had to find where it was. This is it. It wasn't really, nobody, in my opinion, I couldn't see this house, but how it was.
Is it on private properties?
Yes.
So somebody's benefiting from that tower.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
I came home the other day and there were no cars. And I texted everyone I found and said, where is everybody? Where is everybody? They were at Meadow, but they couldn't get anything back to me. They didn't know I was
Oh.
calling them until afterwards.
Yeah, that's what that's.
Yeah. That's it.
yeah.
They tried to put the cell tower over, you want to see that,
Max.
Mhm.
but because it's. The type of property it is, we can't. We could put the cell tower.
Yeah, on top of the lift or something.
Nonprofit organization,
Oh,
with some rules and regulations, they could not, so.
that's too bad, because they could have benefited from that. That would have been mercy. Yeah, exactly.
Steve, the one downtown was an issue because they already had a water tower. And the AT&T put it on the water tower, so they didn't have to build a new tower.
Mhm.
But again, for the rich, possibly not.
Okay, do they promise that this will help cell service in those dead zones?
That's what they're saying.
Okay.
So I don't think it's.
Yeah, all right, okay, yeah,
That's what's still there.
yeah. What else did you want
Yeah.
to share?
That was other than the, this, we had a lot of people ask their, for our public hearing, or our workshop, I think, public hearing, but we're there to talk. They were concerned about septic systems, and people are gonna rent their houses, which is a big concern. So, and we pass it on to the town board, you know, it should be inspected, they should be able to, when they go for their permit, everything should be taken care of right there. I think they can do that. You're applying for a permit, they can inspect your septic system, but just to make everybody in the whole town say, hey, we're gonna. That's all right.
Right,
And that might be. The gentleman on, I think. In this part, somebody, he was talking about, by the lake, they're concerned about people in septic systems. What do you do?
Are there grants or anything like that where you can tell people to replace their septic or please take it out?
not on private property from state and federal grants that I'm aware of, but sometimes there are local grants or county grant systems, and I know Warren County's been working on you know, if your property's within so many feet of the lakes. And
They do something that, right,
yes,
huge concern about, I understand.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
you know this stuff.
right,
what the parts of. Luzerne and there, they end where art lives, actually, where his house is.
Right.
Been really thick with weeds, and it has been, and it's getting worse, and. There's, you know, it's pretty good density of houses there as well, so I can see where. It's it'd be reasonable to think that some of those septic systems are leaking.
mhm,
Yeah, it does seem like it's a kind of watershed, right? So
It's every, I don't think if somebody sells the property, you can't go in and they can do something.
No, you can control if he doesn't have it in yet. You put it in a new one, I think it has to be 100 feet, I think, from water.
Some of those people may not ever, or if they do, it might go to secret.
You know, but it may have been there before there was regulation.
it was
Right, exactly.
the county, where they're looking at.
County was that.
So when properties turn over, so if that property is sold, they have to be inspected and ready.
Maybe I would be on fire house.
Is that what happens now?
We had an inspection way on the lake, and it was Kind of put like drain the water, tell it wasn't producing any water, and then bring that stops. So it wasn't.
Yeah, it's interesting how your roof shouldn't leak. I mean, they'll go up there and check your roof and run your faucet and all this, but you know, the septic system doesn't get a look-see. You have to make it. The town of Bolton does do it. So every place that turns over anywhere in the town, because almost everybody is pretty close to some stream somewhere or wetland.
But do they people, I mean, that's what, and how did that get, is that a town passed that? Or
Yes,
is it a-
it was painful.
But-
Painful and-
No, don't, it's still there, it's been there for some years.
There's nothing, because that is not politically feasible. They can't get that passed, but they could the other. And it does cause some problems, you know, so in Lake George, in the watershed of Lake George, there are some organizations that are well-funded. And they have, they're developing programs for people who may not be able to fund a new system or upgraded system. Maybe it's just a field. But what they do have is inspectors that are all trained at the same level. So, you know, you usually don't think anything's wrong with your septic system unless your toilet's back up or it smells when you go out and mow the lawn. That is like a clue, right? But otherwise, out of sight, out of mind, really. But these guys and gals are trained on checking, you know, the pipes that with the elbows and the connections and, you know, different things. And they actually go into the tank and check it. They have their means of checking them and a real checklist so that when they get done, because what happens is, you know, so many of them are kind of marginal, right? They work. And then these people who have a marginal system, just barely, you know, we're only going to have 20 people over, not 40, right? It works. And then they go home and the system rests. And then the whole thing starts all over again. And a lot of systems are like that. They're just kind of marginal. They're not terrible. And so it's hard to catch those, right? It's really hard to catch those unless you have a standardized system. So if you ever did do that in Lake Luzerne, you would need that kind of thing. It requires staffing, right? Training, staffing, paperwork, you know, all of that, enforcement. And a lot of towns don't want to get involved in that because it really is pretty onerous.
Wasn't, I thought it was a conversation all of our earlier meetings about the Warren County. This and then the idea was that all of them bodies of water would be covered so that it would be, so there'd be shared staffing, shared training, some resources that could be county-wide. And I don't know how you're going to do it. Here, right? But
Train them. There's quite a few people trained, actually.
Yeah.
I think that's the best, is to have a standardized system countywide. But they are not getting support in certain communities, so it's very difficult to get. So that's the problem with that. It's kind of all or nothing, and they can't get all. And so, you know, it falls back to the individual towns to come up with a plan that they can tolerate and they have enough staff to do. So
But
because that has a cost, they usually don't do anything.
did you say though, I forgot what you said, did you say there's funding at the local level or something?
Well,
like
some
that?
of the organizations around Lake George have it. They're well funded and they have little grants that go out up to $15,000 to upgrade your system. They'll put some money towards it as an incentive to get it done.
And that's what I mean, if something like that were to happen in the Luzerne, where they went into the property, turned over or whatever, you could, you know, maybe if we had a program like that, then people can take advantage of it. It might be an incentive for them to.
I love
Upgrade.
that. I love that way you're talking, because I think the town could apply for a grant that would fund what you're talking about on the local level. And then the town decides what the standards are, you know, who could apply for it.
And then
And
they could send something out to all the lakefront
yeah,
property owners, telling them that this is an opportunity, you know, if they wanted to take advantage of it.
it's kind of carried in, so you say, if, in order to ever sell your property, it's going to be inspected. Right now, we have a program and some funding available.
Right.
If you want to get it checked out now.
At the rates that we have to now, rather than 10 years from now.
I mean, go ahead.
The town is, on a different issue, is very concerned now about coming up with regulations for, short-term rentals and for Airbnbs and stuff. Maybe that could be part of the, permitting process.
All right, well, that's what we thought.
With for an Airbnb, you know.
They're still looking into it. I mean, they don't want to say you can't have an Airbnb. And they don't want to say you can't rent your house, but they're looking into. They have
Some ordinances,
yeah,
for
yeah, about
noise,
density, like we're
parking.
talking about housing density and, you know, how it will affect the neighbors, how many times you can rent in a year, or how many times. In Fourth Lake, we have, the Fourth Lake community has its own regulations about how many times you can rent in 1 year and stuff like that, and how long the rental can be, but it's different because we're a community. And, you know, it's not a town. So if someone doesn't do it, if someone, we can say you're no longer in the community, you can't come to the beach, you can't, we don't want to do that. But it's saying the spirit of community is easier than just doing it in the town.
Right.
They were asking if there was some kind of local organization. that Did that, and we spent the time and we didn't. But
We
that,
do, but only for our members. You know, we have no control over anyone else.
that's still, we didn't know that existed.
Yeah.
Because you own that beach, that property.
We own the
belongs
beach.
to
And we
your
are,
organization.
right, we own the beach, we own parking lots, we own community house, and we do things together,
Mhm.
you know, and so it's a different thing than.
Yeah, you have more control over that.
If you want, I can give you the name of the president of the community, if you have any questions on it.
Beautiful beach, by the way. So I did talk to Jim Niles, who said that he'd like us to talk about short-term rentals. And short-term rentals is the term that's Airbnbs and all these other things, so it sort of just captures all of that. So my question to you is, do you think that there is a problem currently with short-term rentals in your community?
We did have last year, and those people sold their house and moved away from the community, and people, so, and he said, we're only about 62 families, different kind of thing, but the people who bought it were people who were already in the community, just their house got too big for the families, and now they have another one. But it was a big issue because we have people who don't have a lot of money and rely on this to get some extra income. And we have some people who own more than one home because, you know, the parents own one, the kids own the other, now the kids own both. And so what they can do with the other, you know, so they do want to rent it. In most cases, the rentals are long-term, they're for at least 2 weeks. And only I think 4 times throughout the season. We don't care what they do in the winter time, because most people aren't here in the winter time. So for us, it's not a problem now, but it was a big issue to deal with.
What was the issue? Parking?
And noise.
Noise?
Some of
Okay.
these homes were small. Before there was zoning, so they're on small lots and people would have, you know, you rent a place for the weekend, you have your friends over, you have big parties, and the person in the next house can't sleep. Weekend after weekend after weekend, you know, once a week, once a summer, twice a summer, you can put up with it. And some of the homes don't have parking in various places on private roads, you can probably get by. To my knowledge, there was nothing like a septic issue, but noise and barking dogs is a very big issue.
And it's, and what the whole area is known for is it's quiet.
Exactly.
So the very thing that you treasure is what's being compromised. Other thoughts about it?
Just the issues I've heard.
We should come to a workshop with the town board because the people that were there were representing their rentals. And they said there were no problems other than Davin Drive's problem.
Darren Drive, they mentioned it.
But there were other
It
people
was
that
at the town board.
were renting their places 2 nights a week, for $400 or $500 a night, don't even live.
That was one of the issues that was brought up in the town board, is that someone sells a house in Fourth Lake community, we know who buys a house. But someone in town sells a house that might not be bought by a family. It might be bought by an LLC,
Right.
and this is what they want to do. And they don't care, they have no skin. in
There's
the
a
game.
few of them, right?
Yeah. And I was speaking to someone who in Fourth Lake today, in fact, who winters in Florida. And she said in her little community in Florida, what they did, and again, because this is a community, because it's not the town, is they put in a regulation that says you can't rent your house unless you've been living in it for 2 years.
Oh, wow.
So that kind of company is going to buy it. You can't do that really, and I don't think. Look at something.
We presented, both the planning board and some, a whole bunch of restrictions that we wanted to see in place as far as people, inspection, and everything.
Right.
Hopefully they'll follow through, you know, even improve upon what we told them.
Do you have a soft copy of that?
Oh,
Well, the list of regulations that you just presented for.
we got one, I
Okay.
had my planning board stuff. It's done a lot of things. But
Because if
yes,
you have a soft copy of the list, I'd love to see it.
Well, one thing I might be able to do for the town board is to kind of take your wish list and compare it to some places nearby, like Bolton. I know Bolton did like months effort, painful effort. I think Queensbury did too, but I know Bolton's very, very thorough, and we could look at a few places and compare some ideas. So it could be 5 nights minimum or a week minimum, whatever it is. And because I think you get rid of a lot of problems when you make the time period longer, and then it kind of keeps out the riffraff to some degree, you know, doesn't entirely, but that's my experience in Lake George.
people that were there were staying good money places for 5 nights. Nobody was coming. As soon as they put it to 2 nights, they're sold out for the season. And they said they have somebody, well, they personally check their houses. They thought it was better for the shorter term because they were constantly on the property. As soon as, after 2 nights, it had to be a 2-night minimum, they would come and check the property. For the next, people came in for the next 2, and so they were constantly there, because if you rent it for a week, you may not go there. For a week. You don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
But that was their reason.
Yeah,
Doing it that, way. They told the town board that they were running 2 nights rather than 5. Yes, it started.
But they're saying that they're going to go there and check after every 2 nights.
Yeah,
Because
because
LLC is going to do that.
they, no, they're an LLC.
But
Everybody has to be an LLC to protect themselves. So all these.
I think it's required by law to be an LLC. And we've been sort of kind of like, why are they all LLCs? And then I learned they have to be. To get the benefit for taxes. It doesn't have to be, it's to get the benefit for taxes, you have to be an LLC.
I would think if there was an issue after a few nights, so the neighbors would complain, because I know my friend has a house right next to one that just opened, which it's probably somebody who's at that, and there are several of them in the Heights and some down in town. And a lady came over and gave my friend her name and phone number to say if there's a problem, call. So, you know, if it's more or less than, if they're saying they're that back after 2 days, the neighbors can call them if there's a problem after 2 days. You know what I mean? So I get, they're trying to make money. I get that,
Absolutely.
but yeah. But like you're saying, the longer that you make them stay, you're getting better clientele, so to speak, of people. Maybe not.
I think usually, but
They definitely charge a lot.
they charge,
Never taken us for Tom's $4,500 a night.
yeah. But you know, it also encourages people to have more than one family there. I mean,
That's quite a restriction. You can only have.
yeah.
That
So 5 cars come in and park.
was
That's at least 5 adults. Yeah.
Told them you couldn't have more than 2 cars. That would be normal for that. for
Yeah.
their house.
Okay.
You can't have. You can't have, you got. If there was a complaint, police came, noise level. They wouldn't be able to rent that. The town would say, okay, suspend, or you get fined. Happens again, suspend for a year. Some of the rules here. Kind of use Warrensburg and both man and bullets.
Mhm. Oh, good, okay.
Who would be responsible for enforcement?
It's on any office.
Yeah, well, Karen would be really pleased about that.
Well.
We hired her.
Yeah, yeah.
Where did it even start?
She was with.
Well, I mean, there's a I think it's Airbnb right next to the beach in Luzerne on the lakes, and those people park at the beach. You know, they have a lot of cars, they have no park at the beach, and there's not a lot of parking spots up there. So that's how they get
No
away with it.
rules right now, that's why. It's said, I can't believe it. But I would just encourage, just keep checking the website, as soon as they have the meeting, public hearings.
Go and listen, purchase.
all-
Okay.
That's what they.
I think you have to remember that people who own their houses can be bad people too.
Oh,
All right, so they can also abuse all kinds of systems, and there's not a lot you can do except call the police. And you know, it's that is where you get into this liability and the contradiction and that kind of a thing. I know my neighbor, he rents probably 4 or 5 times for a week during the season. And they're fine, they're just little families playing in the pool and whatever, and no problem. Then he comes with an enormous amount of family, and the bonfires begin, and the dogs are barking, and you're yelling and screaming.
You'd rather have
So,
renters.
I'd rather have the renters, so we have to kind of be careful that we don't discriminate against this rental thing for the sake of, you know, of that.
But is there, like, do the town of Bolton or Warrensburg, do they limit the number that there are in the town? I mean, you could end up with a lot.
No,
of
they
them.
don't.
So limit to how many you can even have.
No, and now it's incentivized for the community through occupancy tax. So they like that. So they're not about to limit the number because they really like that
Everybody
money.
gets a share, we get a
Yeah.
share too.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So it's kind of another contradiction there that is kind of strange, but yeah. No, there's,
There's been discussion about the impact of short-term rentals on affordable housing. So if a house had been, normally a rented house that was a family or working. And it's now a short-term rental, so it's no longer.
Off the market.
It's off that market. And, I know about North, there's been a lot of discussion, Sarah, like, if that's been a real issue that, workers, that they need for all the businesses, can't live anywhere nearby because all the property is turned over to short-term rentals. So I don't know if that's happened here at all, it's different, and we're not.
Not yet, that's tough, concern.
Right, if enough of the housing stock turns over to these short-term rentals, then where do they live?
Yeah.
Doesn't own this.
So, yeah, people have to go to work. Then
Right.
yeah, it's definitely a problem.
One thing brought up at the town board last night is the lawyer said that Airbnb legally is considered a private home. We can't regulate it the same way. Or it does not fall under the regulations of a motel or a hotel. That's why we need separate regulations for it.
And one of the, well, they most of the times fight it. Unfortunately, they're all over the United States, and, just because you're a home for short-term rental, and not a hotel. That was an argument, but I guess it didn't pass. It's a private home period.
There was a law that went in, I think passed one house legislature in Florida that basically took away from the HOA any control over renters. And it was fought very strongly. Many people didn't know about it. Had that happened, all of these communities could become nothing, no community anymore, no sense of community at all. But it did not pass the second house of the legislature, because enough people heard about it.
I don't know how it was gonna happen. I mean, Lake George is a big area, and a lot of people aren't staying in Lake Luzerne yet, but as soon as Lake George gets filled up, we got no regulation.
What's the time to get them?
that's always a concern too, for a lot of people I know in the lakes too, because people find these camps and they tear them down and build, a beautiful home, but but that's what happened. My husband's family had a place in Lake George, my sister-in-law too, they just had to sell it because they couldn't afford the taxes anymore. So I hate to see something like that happen here, because there's a lot of camps, weekend camps, cottages, whatever, that middle-class families have owned for 100 years. We don't want to see them get forced out and Lake George. Lake George is totally changed from what it was 30 years ago.
It might eventually come to us, to be honest, make sure we have the right.
Yeah.
All right, so I think we beat that one up. And we're just, it's kind of like, well, you know, I'll write up some notes, but basically it is something that everybody should participate in. When you see it up on the website, come to the meeting and listen and I'll see if I can help the town board kind of organize what this, you know, show the differences in the comparisons of different communities. And that way, maybe it makes it easy. Well, we don't need that, or, you know, because you could always change it. You could always add, but you could start with something simple. Well, fairly simple. It's not simple.
No, it's not.
Gosh, it's not simple. All right, so let's move on to environmental. Under this, I had water quality, aquatic and terrestrial invasives, flooding, you know, I'm specifically talking about Benar and the chain of lakes there. And what we might want to recommend in the plan regarding invasives and the management of them. You know, for instance, it could be something like, you know, we recommend that an annual plant survey be done in Lake Luzerne.
Well, Lakes are doing something right now.
Lake
They are.
George is very active.
Yes, yes, I know.
Fine.
No, they're not, but that's why I'm kind of going out in my kayak and kind of seeing whether it's worth it or not. Just doing a light survey, if I find a lot of something, then I can report on it. But right now, I wouldn't say anything about Fourth Lake because it's pretty minor. The invasives are pretty minor, although I would watch that Chinese snail.
I mentioned to you,
Yeah.
North Lake has a very active lake committee. Yeah, especially this last year. I surveyed the lake about 12 years ago, but I didn't know about all of this. I was looking specifically for Eurasian milfoil, and I found native milfoil. But when Jennifer Moon did it just about a year ago, she was looking at plants, she was looking at animals, she was looking at chemicals, she was looking at the oxygen level of the lake, a whole bunch of stuff. And that's why she was very interested in whatever you found. But we don't control anything. We don't control our beach. The rest of it, and the private homes. And so right now, all the private homes on it are members of the community. So, you know, we can control that. But most of the lake is owned by the state. We can't tell them what to do. I did go in there some years ago and asked them about setting up a boat washing station or something. And they said, oh, well, we give out pamphlets. Well, that helps.
We've asked them to do it on the farm.
Well, they don't allow motorized boats, but some sneak in. Right past their caretakers. And, you know, they kind of shrug their shoulders. But you know, some of these invasive species can come in, they're gonna come in by birds.
Coming down the chain of lakes.
Yeah,
They can be in the kayak. You know,
could be on the kayak, sure.
But they're more likely to spread with motorboats. You know, I don't know those committed on Lake Luzerne.
I wish,
On Fourth Lake.
I wish there were no more about something.
Yeah.
But this is, someone comes in, there's no lifeguards on the state beaches. If someone comes in with a motorboat, there's no one to tell them they can't put it in the lake.
Yeah, I thought that was funny. I saw that there's a phone there that says if you're drowning, call us.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding you. Put it on there and look, it's hysterical.
At Fourth Lake.
Yeah,
Have
it's a
state
campground.
campgrounds?
State
They use area, they have a
That's very
big,
funny.
board, they have like breathing equipment, all kinds of stuff, so it's kind of like if you are having problems, it's all up to you
Jump
to
out, use the
yeah,
phone,
figure it out yourself, figure it out. But what's what's interesting, when I was on Fourth Lake, I met a woman who was also in a kayak, and she was a botanist. And she was out, I was looking for invasive species. She was out looking for rare and endangered species. And boy, did she have them. Oh
Probably
my
right.
gosh,
We
it
would
is
love-
beautiful. There are,
Love
she
to
showed
have
me.
color for too.
Oh, yeah, I do. Well,
I've been to them.
Yeah.
Went to the,
Yeah, she has a website, so it was very interesting, the two of us out there at the same day.
did she come in from the state park
She did. Yeah, she did.
in a motorized car?
No, no, in a, so, anyway, think about that, about, recommendations for the lakes. See, this comprehensive plan gives you the opportunity, you can make sort of broad recommendations about things, or you can be very, very specific. For instance, the town board is not necessarily going to do a plant survey on Lake Luzerne every year, and it needs to be done every year. They're not necessarily going to do that. They're not going to put it in their budget, and that may be something that we want to recommend here. I'm not sure the other lakes, but
What about utilizing the people that are working on Lake Luzerne and Mike Schaefer and Jim Niles is part of that, utilizing them maybe to help train or work with some of the other lakes to, because when we started in Lake Luzerne, I was on the town board, on the Lake Luzerne Association board, it was just a handful of people going out, taking water samples, and that was a long time ago. So these guys now have been, they've been to CSLAP conferences, and they know what I'm not involved in anymore, but they know what they're doing. I mean, maybe utilizing them to train, because those lakes all run into Lake Luzerne. Leonard and Forest Lake, there's like third, fourth, second, so it's all, could be traveling, or maybe it's just. I don't know if they have.
we did not, I was part of a plant survey team a couple of years ago, and we went deep up into the mouth, the coming down from first, and we did not find any invasives. We found a lot of native plants, but we found no invasives coming from the north.
Oh, in
In the inlet. Yeah, we didn't find any invasives.
So they're being,
Two of us went up through there.
they've been brought in. So Lake Luzerne,
Yeah,
yeah.
could be birds, could be the beautiful loons bringing them in. You love the loons, but they bring in stuff.
Well, I know that
I don't
they
hold it
did say
against-
that Lake Luzerne had a very healthy native plant
Yeah.
life. And there were always, I remember as a kid swimming at, the beach up in the heights, and if you went out kind of far, there were weeds out there, little weeds. But they were all native plants. They were things that were good for the lake, so.
all good stuff.
I had a friend living here last week, and we do it all the time. And I was really impressed with how well it works compared to last year. It's just beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful.
No plants topping the lake.
And we went down on the Silver Bridge and tried to get to second lake, but there's some trees in the way, but it was so, I thought it was clean and it looks great.
And there's a meeting on Thursday, I think, of the history of the milfoil project in Lake Luzerne.
It already happened, or it's coming up?
Who's putting on that?
It's at the library this Thursday at 6:30.
Okay.
The history of managing milfoil in Lake Luzerne.
And who is doing that?
I have, I'm going to SPAC that day, so I can't go, but I'm advertising it. I don't know, I would assume it's part of the Lake Luzerne Association.
Yeah, I
They're
just
very
posted an
similar.
article on. There was an article in the Post Star. It's Mike Schaefer, I forget the lady's name.
Courtney?
Courtney's the president.
Yeah, there's some CSLAP people, and I think Jim Niles might have been in the picture with them,
Oh,
so,
I saw that, yeah.
yeah. So it's probably Mike Schaefer's been doing it for a long time. So he's probably part of it.
Okay. All right, so insofar as environmental issues, flooding. No? Okay.
There was flooding about, the town flooded about, 11, 12 years ago.
In the winter
It was
sometimes,
it was in the
yeah.
spring, it was 100
Yeah,
years
right,
flood, but
yeah.
it was, part of it was because of a lot of snow melting and plus a lot of rain, but somewhere up this further north in the river, another town had, I think, opened its floodgates without telling Gene, so we didn't know, and there was a lot of flooding and the blacksmithing pavilion was just a slab then, it was only about 1.5 feet of water. And
Well, yeah, the river road, a lot of those roads on the river.
Yes.
Yes.
I wasn't too long ago.
No,
It's not, yeah, maybe like 5 or 6 years ago, and then,
two more, I think,
and I'm sure it's happened before.
and the homes along the river.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're all covered.
but right up the river road here, where, you know, where it goes to Buttermilk up that way, those homes right around the bend, a lot of them are on the, well, you know, water up to them, you know, those.
Now, was that from river flooding?
Yes,
Mhm.
Is that from ice damming? The ice dams?
I think that's a big factor, yeah.
We got a lot of snow in winter, spring, rain. Plus the bridge will have
Yeah,
all that.
oh, yeah, yeah, we're going to the golf course, so it's like, I think they called it the 100 years flood, and I saw photographs of the one before, and there's rowboats going down Main Street.
I think that's, you know, it's kind of important because we're looking at not 100-year storms, we're looking at 500 years. And they are happening. These intense storms that are dropping a lot of rain in a short period of time, especially when the land is still frozen. That time period, you know, and
Yeah.
in the spring is
That's-
deadly.
Early this year, it's kind of one of them, I've never seen it in a global bid. So here, you know, but it was the highest it's been on our property. By at least a foot, I mean, it was much higher than we've seen before.
Yeah.
So we have a floating dock, but the bridge, you know, the walkway is uphill.
Oh, boy.
But it was during the time when it was frozen stuff, the runoff just all and build water.
Mhm.
But it does make me think about, you know, there's, I know that it's charged of discussion, but the dam, the spill that's on, the design.
Mhm.
I don't know what the status there is, I mean, it's to be inspected in a year.
Yeah,
or-
the inspection report, I think, is on the website,
It
their
is.
website, and it has a couple of things that have to be, regular maintenance that does have to be done. but
is
it's
that
not
the dam
major.
that broke the beaver? Remember?
Yeah, yeah. oh,
Yeah.
boy, that one
They
they
had
had that
closed
was
the
new
lake
now,
down, yeah. what is it going on?
but that was because of beavers.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, but then there was another, wasn't there a dam over there on the other side of the lake? Going up the other, you know, the back road that takes you to King County? Was there a dam up there or something that broke too?
Yeah, a huge dam that nobody knew about, and took out town or road, wasn't, you know.
So that's.
Yeah.
I don't think we have flooding from. Besides the river, I don't know about the lakes and the.
The lake was trying to drain into the river and the river couldn't hold it. That was, that one about 12 years ago. And that's when the whole folks school. You know, so.
Well, that stream is right next to.
Right, and the stream had nowhere to go. The river was going.
So see, a recommendation here, I hear a lot of angst about this, and believe me, my own personal experience at my, up on at Lake George, was that we hit a 500-year storm, April 8th of this year, and it did $860,000 worth of damage that is on us and our little association, and that was a 500-year storm. And basically, it was completely deadly, and we have no idea how we're going to pay for it. So I think what we could do in our recommendation is to suggest a study of the predominant streams in the community, particularly coming from Second Lake. Well, we'll say between Fourth and Second Lake or Lake Luzerne, and then the stream that goes down next to Adirondack School there. And maybe there are some other places along the river and take, just write, have a report, done that evaluates the, and provides recommendations. So that when you do have a storm like that, like in our case, it was simply the culverts that were put there so many years ago, done yeoman duty, fine, all of a sudden weren't fine. They could not handle the water volume. And that they blew up all over the place and the destruction everywhere, just like you're seeing in Kentucky. And I was thinking about Yellowstone and what's the deadly hot place that we all know, Dead Valley. You saw, that's what our place looked like. And so, it's worthwhile to have a recommendation. We don't know specifics, but we could have a recommendation that says, let's evaluate the sensitive points in the community. Sound right?
Yeah,
Okay.
because that way you keep an eye on them, you can tell if there's erosion or if there's build off
Or it's just a beaver dam that you have to fix. But a beaver dam can be deadly if you have a storm on top of that, and that's your big obstacle.
That
can
can
really-
really, we had a lot of rain and
So,
then,
and nobody knew it was a dam.
right, and it was
Yeah.
huge. And the lake was closed, you couldn't swim for like a week because people got on the water, yeah.
Mhm.
You could drive on those roads.
Yeah.
Okay, good. That's great. Who's still on Zoom? Any comments on Zoom?
No, this is Fred. No, I'm good.
Okay, Thank you, Fred, for
Thank you.
being here. Appreciate it.
No, I'm listening well.
Okay, so then we go to commercial businesses and, in looking at them, there's so many that are such wonderful places, and I love Harris's and Nettle Meadow, although, I'm not a big goat cheese person, but I still love it and I love to go, and they have wine and beer, whatever. Yeah, it's kind of a cool place and it's unusual. Painted Pony, Bennett's, which is called something else now, the whitewater rafting place, and Double H, etc. And what I noticed was there are some vacant and underutilized properties. I think about, I forgot to say Longhorns. It's a pretty good place. Across the street from Longhorns is a building that, well, I don't know what happened the last few years, but
Big, long, yeah.
it's imploded.
Used to be.
It was? I don't remember that. And so so that's privately owned. Now, is that you're a resident of the area. Do you think that there needs to be any public space in that little hamlet of Lake Bonaire? Because that could be a nice park.
Yeah, would be a nice thing to have.
That'd be great.
I think it needs to be parking for Longhorn, because there's not much parking.
Oh, interesting. All right, well, it could be a hybrid project. Oh, yeah. Oh, my God.
That's the time when you want to be across the street and then parking road to Longhorn, you have to park. Especially after the events.
So one of the things I noticed was that there's really, I don't know, as a person coming through Lake Bonaire, that where I could personally stop, rest, have a sandwich. There's a beautiful little eyebrow rest stop. That's fine. That's very nice, but I don't see that till after I'm past, and it's kind of separated, right? I can't walk to anything really. And then across the street from it is this information center, which I did stop at, and that is really dilapidated. And I don't know, does anybody know who owns it? Who owns that property?
Well, I know the folk school put a chair there once with the sun and on the chair it said, go to the folk school, but even though I knew it was there, I couldn't read it while I was driving.
Yeah, that
It has.
It's like the Painted Pony Rodeo is.
Yeah.
Directly behind. That's what I was.
I don't know, they've got a really awful sign there.
It's like, Maybe.
I don't know, I mean, there's places, there's a little shed and then there's places for brochures and stuff. It used to be kept up, so I'm just wondering what happened.
It used to actually have someone there. Years ago, I remember stopping there and there was someone that was there to give information. And I don't know who that was. Does anybody remember that?
Selling dogs there last week.
Oh, I did see that. I saw, so they were selling little puppies and they got in the truck, which I don't think is very legal.
Where?
That thing, you talk about the place that we think might be on that.
There was somebody was selling puppies there?
Out of the truck.
I looked at them, but
Jeez.
they will be.
Big Baby is the town.
They would maintain that.
Let's find out who owns it. And that would be a recommendation would be to, that's just sad. That place is sad and there's garbage around and it needs, it's not a good, here we are, in like Luzerne type of thing. And the Painted Pony sign is really dilapidated. The one going in Painted Pony looks fine.
The different painted pony horses.
Yeah.
That's not owned by Painted Pony, that's owned by Before Painted Pony, there's another company.
Oh.
Horses, yeah.
Yeah, that's owned by them.
Which is when you turn down and to go towards the rodeo, you go to the right, the right there.
Okay. It's called Rogerios.
Yeah.
Rogerio,
R-I-G-G-E-R-I-O.
that's owned by them.
Oh, horses and cabins. Okay. And then you have your most famous resident back there off Chuckwagon Road. Has she been of value to you
Well-
guys at all? Or?
Rachel, right?
Yeah.
I don't. Well,
No. No.
well, did she rebuild their house?
No, yes.
No, she doesn't, I don't know. She does things for Lake George, for the school, preschool.
That's where she went to school.
Mhm. Okay.
There's an outreach to her for different organizations and, you know.
Well, I do understand that years ago, she bought quite a large piece of property up there because she was concerned about development.
Right.
So, I think that she was thinking a little bit about Luzerne and the community here.
I think she bought it just as a buffer, just to keep it free, to prevent development.
That is the most likely.
Also, I think she has gardens, she has different kinds of gardens, I was told, have them on the road going up to her house.
I don't know, I'm not sure where the road, I know, actually I know where the road is. So,
I wouldn't be surprised because I mean, she was pretty private there for a while and then the house burned down and then all the press knew where it was. You could look at Google and crazy. So anyway, I think that sprucing up what's really not in very good condition and maybe considering a park or a hybrid park, you know, whatever it is, but reutilizing that property across from Longhorns because it's pretty bad. It's also not a good front.
And right after that, right after Luzerne, that used to be cowboy store.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
A cowboy store, you mean with snap shirts and
Yeah. It's all sorts of really higher.
yeah,
There's
there's a little
Where is
parking
it now,
now.
If you do the apartments now.
It's like something cottages.
Right by Lakeview.
Yes.
And the young fellow bought it and it found out that the septic system was underneath the house.
oh, that's
So they never exposed that, so I guess it's just sitting, I don't know what the story is now. Or
It's deteriorating. and it's down.
when we first moved here in '03, there was two years there, Indian.
Yeah.
Native Americans.
The entire restaurant.
Yeah.
Does Lake Bernard still have a swan? The swan? Yeah, didn't you have a swan on the lake or something?
Plastic.
What was that?
You're plastic.
Oh, somebody said, I never saw them, somebody said there were
Oh,
swans on the lake.
People thought that by putting these plastic
White swan.
swans,
Like they would attract them?
No, keep
they
these
should
away.
keep geese away.
Oh, okay. I never saw them, I just heard somebody say there were swans.
Full my sister.
But good to know they're plastic.
They didn't move.
It's not a tourist attraction.
The swans.
I like it. That's nice.
Very happy to the moon on our lake.
Yeah, you look.
Oh, nice.
It might be one from Luzerne, because I think there's only one. Have you seen two?
Yeah, we're in a sport, and we're all fishing, so it's all adults, so I think those are what but there's a parish though.
Okay, because I thought maybe the Eagles forced some of them out of there. We have the Eagles. We used to have osprey, the Eagles kicked the osprey out.
The loons were there when she went there.
What's that?
The two loons were there last week when I was there.
The loons?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's other little.
They came into our swimming area. Tried to charge them.
How'd that go?
So I don't know this, are there any trails? I can think of?
Right there. I did not find any. You know, I have my trusty Adirondack Park National Geographic. That's my alarm that it's 8:15.
Yeah.
There's the potash, which they call Paris.
Yeah, by Harris, yeah, they have a Harris trail there.
Paris
Paris
Preserve.
Preserve, Paris Preserve.
That's helped me. Yeah, so it was well built.
Not an easy one.
No.
No, I'm not really
Yeah, the water was behind somebody's house, I couldn't find how to get out. Now it's.
So anyway, I looked at trails, you know, particularly when you look at, great sock and dog, I must be close. When you look at, the section here, which is to the, south of Lake Benar, there is a lot of wild land that goes over to West Mountain, obviously, that, you know.
And there's, I know that, Linda Evento, she's a local artist, on her Facebook, she would always talk about hiking to, the reservoir up there, forget the name of the mountain.
Yes,
But there must be a trail in there somewhere
yeah.
that she, I thought it was like around Bennett's or somewhere in there, and I remember horseback riding a long time ago, we went to some reservoir up there.
We have the Very Creek Reserve that is now state land.
What is it?
Very fun.
Very Pond Reserve.
Okay.
Oh, on the other side of the
And,
road.
of course, you got the South Orange Snowmobile Club, and they have a snowmobile trip. You can walk all the way to Lake Jordan from Lake Bernard.
On the other side, over, yeah, but I think there's something, you know where Bennett's riding stable was, there were, I remember going to like a reservoir or something.
I think it goes to Wilkie, is it? It goes to Wilkie and Butler Pond.
Butler Pond, I think that's it.
Yeah.
Butler Pond, that would be going towards Queen area,
Yes,
that one.
yes. So if they pass around the map, you'll see there's a lot of easements, forest easements and different wildland. And it looks like maybe jeep trails up there, but not official trails. But there could be opportunities up there in the future. I haven't really researched it a lot. You'd have to go, you could see, John, all the easements that are striped. And it's a lot of wild land. I think it's zoned open space. So I mean, there might be some opportunities up there, but I mean, you have potash, you have the area around the downtown, you have around the Hudson River, and you have, of course, Buttermilk Falls. I mean, those are magnificent trails. And I don't think there's anything right around you except for Fourth Lake Campground. Has beautiful trails, right?
Yeah.
You can walk, I mean, golly, to walk, and then what I discovered were these horseback riding places. There are 23 horseback riding stalls and all of that up there, so.
Yeah, I'll see you first.
Thank you. So that's pretty, you want. Right here, I'm pointing. I mean, I think you have wonderful trail systems and, we just need to find ways of promoting them in a good, you don't want to over promote them, but they do make a nice profile for the community. I had something else here for, yeah, Bucktail Mountain, that's up there, Bucktail. Never been. That's where you're talking about on the way to
Butler
Butler.
Tracy, Tracy,
Yeah.
we really need a trail map. I mean, those are trails back there. I would love to hike the stuff in Fourth Lake or, you know, I know about Potash, but that was one of the things that we chatted about a couple of meetings ago is trying to recommend that they put a trail, you know, some sort of brochure that has all these trails.
Okay,
That's a good idea.
that's a really good recommendation.
Chestertown, and a couple of things, but Chestertown has a 5 trail thing. You know,
Chester Challenge.
you get a patch. You know, it's so that could draw people.
And some of them are
Yes.
mountains and some of them are just preserves, and you're
Yes.
just walking on, you know, kind of flat land.
You're always coming up the Lake George area, which is called hiking. We won't Lake George, Lake Luzerne. You guys are near me.
Yeah.
You know, and it'd be good to promote, like you said, a map of trails.
Well, I know when you, even like, when you go down, the mountain road, Trans Mountain Road along the water and into Queensberry, there are preserves. I've been driving and you see the sign through a neighborhood. There's 2 different preserves. I mean, even something, you know, like that, it doesn't have to be climbing a mountain. It could be a trail through the town or a trail along the river. Right.
And in the winter, you know, Fourth Lake Campground could put in some lighted cross-country ski trails. And they do that, people say, oh, the DC would never do that, but they did in Hague.
Was that
Rogers
at a
Rock
public?
has beautiful public, free, gates open all winter long. You can do this route on cross-country skis. And there's somebody, I don't know if it's the state, but there's somebody who does groom this trail.
Wow.
Little rough. It's a trail.
Yeah.
And it's lighted. And it really gives, it extends the season for recreation for regular people. And think about in Fourth Lake, I mean, it's not that, there are parts of it that are hilly, but there's some significant part that isn't. Really could be
You can
perfect.
snowshoe, you can do that too.
Right, the campground is closed in the winter, so eventually could move the road.
That's right.
Well,
Yeah.
there's no real street.
Yes, they do. Yeah, you could ask them to create a trail for you. Somebody would like to do that.
You know,
I'm sure.
over by the dump, I just noticed there was a trail. Over the bridge, if you come around the lake to go to the dump and then you keep going, you're gonna go towards ponds, there's a trail on the other side of the bridge on the left-hand side. Which I think is a snowmobile trail, but those are the kind of things, you know, except my husband's like, oh, where that goes, you know, something like that even. The snowmobile trails could be, I don't know how the snowmobile would feel about that, but.
Well, you have to have their permission because they have permission. They do, and they buy liability insurance, so you have to make an agreement with the landowner for pedestrian use off season. But you can, you can, and also I think there are power line trails that the snowmobilers use that easily can be in the off season for snowmobiling used for, I think this is the horseback riders.
On the trails, I guess I never even thought about. They find people on the signal.
When you come out Ferry Pond out of town of Lake George and you're going across there behind Hidden Lake, behind Double H, that's all private land. People think it's public, but it's not until you come to Buttermilk. Healy Pond Road, basically. There's a lot of private land. they get the okays, sometimes they pay. So
Makes sense.
they don't want you just globbing onto that,
Mhm.
gotta get permission. So that is a great recommendation. And I think we kind of finished the list that I was looking at here. Did you want to contribute? You're listening, I know,
Yeah.
but what would you like to?
Yeah, just had a couple of questions.
Sure.
Going forward, what would be the plan for Lake Fire and for all this, as far as putting up these lakes that we have? Mostly water shield is what we have over there. And it's, like we said, it was cut last year and it's spread. It's terrible. It's worse than I've ever seen. We've been there for almost 20 years. And, so we're gonna do that or what? If they cut it, I don't know how that happened, but it reseeded itself. It's, I mean, Double H, said they can't all around the peninsula, for the kids are supposed to fish, they can't fish. Center of the lake, there's a few. I mean, that lake is only, I think, 12 foot deep at this point. So I think you go down about 6 feet, the sun, hits it, and then he thinks that 6 feet or shallower. It's going to have a space station. And we have some kind of, I'd like to have you take a look at some kind of ribbon that's just below the surface of the water, and it's everywhere. And so you take a little electric motor, and it's just no matter where you go, you're getting plugged up. You have to take it out and clean it. So I'm just wondering I know Lake Luzerne historically got all the money to clean the lake. Nothing has been contributed to our lakes up there. So is there a plan to maybe make it a little more balanced?
Can I just interject, because I was part of that, but Lake Luzerne, that's because there were a group of people from Lake Luzerne who became active. And that's what you need to get people in your community, like you have people in yours, you need to get some people in your community active. And that's what I'm saying with these people from Luzerne, they could come and help you, train you, tell you how they started, what they did. Because they've been working on getting grants. I mean, this was 20 years ago that I was involved. So it's been a slow process. Yes, but that's because they, yes.
With the blankets down. Is there any thought about maybe?
So the difference is that Lake Luzerne is on public. Right, the bottom is public, it has public access
So
that allows public.
You have a public beach stop.
Yes, we do. It's small.
Yeah.
It's kind of a secret. It's over by Castles.
Okay.
I think Gene Marlene will actually 5 feet or 10 feet. Used to be owned by the hotel. And they had rights. And the woman, I don't know the whole story. Talk to Gene, you know all about it.
Yes, but when cars go by our house and they say, where's the public access to the lake? It's in- I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, that thing.
But, might I ask a question? Did you say that you're going to be coming on to Lake Lenore and doing some kayaking on Friday? I would extend an invitation because I know you've been in touch with Matt. And you were hoping to be in touch with Mr. Reed. But I'd like to extend an invitation for you to come and kayak over by our area.
Okay.
Because it's, we're 82, and matter of fact, the ranch is our neighbor.
Our next door neighbor is the nursery cottage, and then, the range.
But the weeds, we've owned that property for over 19 years. And the different kinds of vegetation that's in the lake. You need to come and see it. Really,
Let's see about that.
and I.
Honestly, it's just.
Yeah,
They work on theirs. They just got their property. And they own their own lake, so.
We don't have an association of
No.
Lenore. There's only,
Homes are there, on the lake.
there's about 10 to 12, I think, we counted it at
It's all on the backside, of course, 9 inch all cabins that they rent.
and around the corner, highways around.
Yeah,
So there's only a few private
10
landowners.
to 12
10 to 12.
privately owned.
But maybe you can do start one of those
of organizations, maybe we get from the.
Well, I've tried.
Facility.
I've tried to do that. Very difficult to try to get people involved. One of the reasons that we're here tonight, to hopefully, let you know that there are concerned people out there. My husband and I attended a meeting last fall here at the town hall. And we were told that Mr. Niles was going to be conducting some type of water committee, and we signed our name on the dotted line, and no one ever got in touch with us. So,
So I guess this is part of it.
I think it is part of it, and I think what you have to realize is that you are in the Anne Arundel Park. And has its good part, but really, they're not gonna let you pull out or poison with an herbicide any native plant. The only time is if you will get a permit to do that, and you have to have a permit, is with invasives. So you don't know what you have until you have a full survey done. And I think that if we recommend that I'm gonna go out and
For both of those lakes.
for both of those lakes, a survey, you won't have to do it annually. But I think it should be done where they, Freshwater Institute or somebody comes and grids the lake and does it that way, and they find whether there are any, they'll tell you what natives are in there and what invasives are.
we had heard that was going to take place this fall on our lake.
I don't think that will has. No, it's only had like these, yeah, the expense was.
Go and take samples of different plants and send them to someplace like, Darren Freshwater Institute, there's another one also, you can send them to, and they will let you know what you have.
I think you should talk to Mike Schaefer.
I was thinking. the same
Yeah,
thing.
I think you should talk to Mike Schaefer, and a couple other guys have been doing this, like I said, 20+ years. I remember going out, dropping the thing down to test the water quality. They could at least tell you where to start, like on your own even, maybe let you borrow equipment, like, because we did it a long time ago, and then it kind of fell apart, and we had to start all over again, and we have to keep records and documentation and all that kind of stuff to prove to the state, to get the money, because the association was paying for some of it, and then we finally got the town on board when Gene Molino came in. Before that, the town was not on board at all. So it was a battle. It was a battle.
It
But
could be.
no, yeah. So I think you should just, if you want to give me your name and phone number, I'll give it to him and ask him to just call you, because at least it's the beginning, and somebody to kind of tell you, he's been in it right from the start, so he would know.
Yes, that would be a good idea. But I can tell you what some of the plants are. I have students of mine who have come up to the lake and said, well, this is water shield, and this is this, and this is that. So, and the meeting that was held here last fall, many people from Lake Luzerne, I think I saw you there at the meeting. Were you there at that meeting?
I don't know.
Here about water quality. I was really shocked, to be honest with you, with the amount of knowledge that came forth from the people that were here. They also talked about a herbicide that had already been used on several of the lakes.
We used a benthic barrier about 15 years ago. The state let us put a benthic barrier between the beach up in the heights and the small section of the lake. And they let us put sonar in that section of the lake. It was an experiment. And it couldn't technically seep out into the rest of the lake. And I don't know if it eventually, I'm not a scientist, so maybe it evaporates or something eventually. Then they took the barrier out. And it did clean up that section of the lake they always said was not man-made, but maybe it was like more of a pond. There were always lots of weeds in there. But they did let us do that, but that was probably 15 years ago, and they've never let us do it again.
I think Lake George wanted to do it, and they started.
Yeah, there was one that they used, not just sonar, there was something else that they used, but they had to get permission from the ADA.
Anything in the Adirondack Park, you have to get one.
And that's what I'm saying, you gotta have a paper trail.
Procellivore.
That's it.
Procellivore. So, Luzerne, the town is still thinking about whether they would apply to the EPA to use that in Lake Luzerne. they are doing a valiant effort and an expensive effort this year with suction harvesting to see what, what the result is. But, they are going to have somebody on the lake within the next week or so who's going to do a plant survey and looking for rare and endangered aquatic plant species. Map them, and that's where you cannot use the Priscilla for. This is something the Adirondack Park Agency requires before you can even apply for Priscilla for. You have to prove that you did this aquatic plant survey. So they can identify where the natives are and the rare endangered species, and I think there are 3 in the bottom of the lake. And isolate those, and that's, you can't put anything near here. But, fortunately, but they use like silk fences, like a shield in the lake.
But I guess it's supposed to be a pretty good product, I guess.
It's very good, and it dissipates very quickly. Like George,
Who's the expert in the town for that project? Who's project is there? Are they hired a consultant that is doing that?
well, they kind of got me monitoring it, yeah. Keeping track of all these efforts and what they should do, and what they,
It's great that you're here. Well, I'm hearing like, you're sort of at the beginning of the process that started maybe 20 years ago. in Luzerne. And so there's gotta be some learning. Went on.
The change, so very new comes in and now broken and actually runs.
Right, you're our property.
So, yeah, like you said, it could, go right down the chain of all these lakes, whatever new problems there are.
Well, these guys are all certified now for water testing by New York State. This Mike Schaefer, I think it's Dr. Jane Opelander and Jim Niles. So that's what I'm saying. Mike Schaefer's been in it from day one. He would be a great resource.
Yeah, there's some learning. All those years. Now that the town's smarter about doing the whole thing, there's a way to, jump a line a little bit and not have to spend 20 years to get to a point.
Our neighbor, Glenn House, met with Jim Niles, had lunch with him. He was telling us that they were gonna come up and try to see what we had there, basic or non-basic, what they could do about it.
but you should also have this CSLAP program, Citizen Statewide Lake Assessment Program, that tests the water quality. And they will, as part of it, you can check the plants and what have you every year, but it does give you a baseline and then you can follow it over the years. You have to apply to be in the program, but, you can still do it yourself. Follow the parameters and, buy a second disc and, do some of those, just take some water samples and keep an eye on the health of the lake that way. But, that would probably help you try to get into the program itself. New York State only allows so many lakes a year to be part of the program.
And what does that do for you? Are you part of the program?
You just can track your lake water quality and see when things go wrong. And
It probably helps you too, if you apply for grants and things like that, which are part of that program. And maybe, if you talk to them and maybe then you could get your other 10 or 12 neighbors on board and maybe, somehow you could have a meeting with the Hole in the Woods and some of those other people. They don't realize probably, once you know what you're dealing with, you know what I mean? Once you know if you do have a problem, then you
Well,
can.
yeah, we had time about Max, actually, on that question, was the facility manager went on and followed with Gene Marlino. And they picked some of the weeds and tried to explain to Gene what we had.
They did say, no, well, I
They
was.
said we have no, but we don't know if it's really. Definitely have no, see that. So it would be good to find out if there's anything to do with solve our problem. It's not
so if you find native plants, you can apply for a permit to cut and cut them back. But you can't, they will not allow you to pull them out and try to eradicate.
And
That's like-
when they grow.
But when they put out the seeds, that's when you don't want to cut them, because you just scatter the seeds.
Well, the water shield has, can you tell me what water, I'm saying water shield, it's smaller than you,
Mhm.
and gets a gel coating on the stem after it matures. There's no flowers, to it, it's just a color, it just, just covers the whole lake.
Mhm.
That probably a third of the lake is covered with this.
Is that what's on Forest Lake?
Yeah.
When it dries up, and you can't see the water. Sure.
Well, I've seen the same, we have Lily pad. This water sheet, it's just, the other one, I think maybe take a look at it, the ribbon. It's, like I say, it doesn't break the surface,
Mhm.
and it's brown, and it's just like, I don't know. It's
It almost has the appearance of like a seaweed. Oh,
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
that's what it looks like. But there are several other different plants in them.
yeah, we're getting different.
Okay,
Will we see you on Friday?
I'll be out there. It won't take me long to get around the lake.
No, it's not that big,
You know.
it's not big.
Yeah.
If you may be able to get the owners of the cabin also involved with this, not just the private.
I don't think they would be interested.
Once,
because that's
once
the
you
life-
find out if you have an issue, you know, I.
the life- life's already been done.
Well, I did sort of thought her out after we attended the meeting last fall. With our name, our address, our telephone number, and no one called. No, I shouldn't say that, Glenn did, our neighbor, no, he did. But, we speak to neighbors regularly, and nobody seems to want to get involved, just.
It's the way of the world, isn't it?
Yeah.
Always,
Exactly.
even things like this, right?
What's your name again?
Ed Gnarly from ARLI. We're at 82 in Valley Road. You can't really miss it. Craftsman style.
Okay.
Yes.
So, what's left on our list is, planning for this, August 23rd meeting, and as I said, that's not happening because there's gonna be elections here that we didn't know about. So we are talking about September 1st. Having it here, which is a Thursday before, dare I say it, Labor Day weekend. So people should still be around.
Some,
Some track is still open.
and it can be zoomed also.
Nobody's at the
It's
track
really for the
except
track.
except at the restaurants. Drew, you have anything you just
Took a lot of notes.
been enlightened. Okay, so let's plan on the 1st, which gives us some more time. And, I mean, my idea for this public meeting is basically to have some exhibits around. One is like the community profile, what's happening with population. And, I'll just tell you, we lost about 300 people in the last decade. And, okay, but that translates into loss of families mostly, which you don't want to happen. So, just looking at some facts and figures about the community and growth and that kind of a thing. And then I'll have maps. County's made some really nice maps. I'll have them print out big ones. And, I thought we would have people, we'd have a lot of, Post-it notes around. And people and ask questions, well, what do you think? And they can put them on there. What are your concerns? And then we could have them brought up to the front and I can facilitate a conversation about it. At first I thought maybe I'd do a formal presentation, but I think this is more trying to get out of people what they want to say. So I'm kind of trying to craft a situation that's a little less formal and let people wander around like an open house type thing. That's what I was thinking.
I know, so if you did that at the beginning, explained it like that, you know what I mean, then people know that's the way it's gonna go, and they can formulate what questions they have or what they want to see happen in the community, what they're worried about.
Yeah, with that structure, if you're gonna, not everyone's gonna be able to make it on that day. Because, Mike, but, what if you put something like a survey up that people get access online for someone on the time, so similar questions, just that anybody who wanted to could go there and weigh in. Another way to keep them more competitive.
I actually saw one, that's a good idea. I actually saw one from some exercise up in Ticonderoga where they use Survey Monkey.
Right.
Because so few people actually come to public meetings. And it was pretty good. It was pretty simple and, you know, you can get some feedback that way.
Actually, didn't the county do that for the internet access? I think there's a county, Warren County did a survey.
Advertising, we have cookies, you don't have people coming.
Well, that's true.
Pancakes and bacon, be better. We get Jean to do that in the next room, cook up some stuff. Yeah, okay. So somehow, I'll work on that and get something on the website where people can respond. In addition to, I actually don't think the meeting would go more than an hour, hour and a half. Because that way you're not boring people with a formal presentation. You're just talking and then, well, people go around and I would ask you guys as members of the committee to walk around or be at stations and talk to people and try to get them to react. So we get as much as possible, feedback as much as possible on this stuff. Okay, I'll do some thinking on that. And of course, if you have any thoughts in between, just give me an email and I can add them to our list.
Can you send me not only what you found in Fort Lake, but other women who are looking for endangered species? Because
Yes,
we haven't been considering that very much, and that's something that we should.
for the protection of
Yeah.
them. You know, they are tucked away. And you do have to have an eye. I was looking for invasives, but
Right,
he
right.
was showing me,
It'd be nice just to make a report because
yes.
my daughter and my granddaughter are both on that committee. I wanted to join it, but I just had too much stuff to do.
Okay, so the
My
botanist,
11-year-old granddaughter takes the notes and I do. Yeah.
that's great.
So that one doesn't have a place on Point Place, she just goes in on, does she do that at other place, too?
There's a little team of them out there. Tired teacher types.
Uh-huh.
And they're out there and they just learn it and then this is their focus. They go out and search for these rare and endangered species.
Are they animals or are they plants?
They're mostly plants, but she was looking at things like darning needles and she'd tell me what that was. I did not know.
You should send her over there to these guys and let her look and see what's in there. So they-
Yes, I can do that. I mean, we're friends now, so I can certainly send her over to your lake and, you know, it's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
And then, I think Fourth Lake and Forest Lake have this, are part of this report that the Adirondack invasives prism, they call it. I don't know what the acronym means, but they wrote up a report on plan survey from 2018. So I'll send you that
Yes, and
if I can find that. I just found, somebody sent it to me. All right, well, great. Thank you all. Now I left you just enough time to go over and get ice cream. I think that's what, right? 9 o'clock. Talk.
you have my email address.